And we're back from commercial break. Still nice to have a commercial break, right, Russ?
That's right. That's right.
Here to help us to break down the NHL trade deadline, and how it pertains to LA Kings. We have a very special guest for you guys. Coming from the fourth period today, we have Dennis Bernstein. Dennis, how you doing?
I'm not sure about the very special guest, but Ryan and Russ, always great to talk to you, man. So 1 week away from the trade deadline, let's do it.
Yeah, less than 6 days. And I guess before we dive into that, just want to get kind of your general thoughts on the Kings this year.
They've overachieved. It's a great story. And I said it the other night after that miraculous win. It's not quite Miracle on Ice in the 1980 Olympics. But here's the thing. If fans aren't emotionally invested in this team right now, then stop being a fan. Right? This has just been an incredible achievement by the organization, by players overachieving, by hanging in there with the injuries. To me, it's been like coming in. I thought they were probably a 90, 91 point team. I thought there would be improvement, but to think second on pace for 100 points, just a great achievement. And I think you guys know my history. I'm a hard grader, and I just think team has bought into a system. The coaching staff's been amazing. Players have responded. And I think, we joke about playing the kids, but to me, one of the biggest things are when they do put these kids in the lineup who have very little experience, they don't freeze in the moment. They don't make these game-changing mistakes. So to me, it's a great ride. I hope Rob, it depends on the injuries, but I hope Rob does maybe add one or two pieces here for insurance, right? Because you don't really know. It's tough, guys, when you say week to week on injuries. You know what that means, like which week. So to me, fans should be really, really pleased. I know there are, people crying about Martin Frk not playing all the time or something like that. But to me, it's been a really, really great season for this team and hopefully for the fans as well.
And as far as that emotional connection, I think you kind of nailed it perfectly because I was listening to the All the Kings Men podcast yesterday, and Carlin Bates said after the game, she just kind of let the emotion take over and she actually cried a little bit. I mean, I think that's a perfect way to describe that win against a very good Panthers team. And, I have to say, how satisfying was that ping on Martin Frk's blast? It just hit the net, but that ping just really kind of emphasized the moment for me.
Well, it's a great story for Martin. That's why Carl got emotional, because he's a really good guy who's 28 years old, who's never going to be a primetime player in this league, but to have those moments, that was great for him. It's a great story. If people say, look, when I call him a fourth liner and he needs to shoot the puck, that's what Todd said. It's not a disrespect to the player. That's what he is. And if he can help this team down the stretch with all the injuries, I'm all for it.
Yeah, especially for a player like Martin Frk, who's done his part with the AHL, with the Reign in Ontario, and hasn't really spoken up or he's just been complaining. Keeps playing his game. And I'm glad you mentioned that these players have kind of come in and it's been like a seamless transition for them. And Todd has mentioned that multiple times in the press conferences we've seen, that it's good that these both the teams are playing the same system. So it makes it a lot easier for these players to just come in and just know the type of game that the coaches expect from them. And they've been showing it too.
Yeah, right. Well, that's development, Russ, right? I mean, it's not about necessarily talent. Jordan Spence, one of my friends from Toronto who does the analytic work, saying Jordan Spence has had a great season in the AHL, right? And it's not about the productivity. It's about the maturity. Like, I know people will talk about the Martin Frk shot, but that's not possible without that play by Bertuzzi at the blue line. He made a great save, a great pass, set him up, and that's maturity. And Sean's been in the league half a season. So to me, that's the development side, the development piece that you don't even see. And people obviously joke with me because I don't watch the Reign, and I'm very transparent about that. But it's not even the games, Russ and Ryan. It's the off-ice stuff that prepares these guys. It's working with the staff. It's working with a guy like Jarrett Stoll, right, and Craig Johnson, and guys who have been here before. So to me, I think that's one of the most impressive things about this. It's not the productivity. It's the ability to be in the moment and have Jordan Spence play 23 minutes in his third game against the Florida Panthers. That's a massive accomplishment, regardless of what he does in the box score.
Yeah, and Dennis, I have a confession too. I don't watch the Reign either. I got three kids.
The NHL, Ryan. Yeah,
three kids, 3 and under. That's I have time for the Kings, and that's it.
Sure, man. I got you.
So moving along to the trade deadline, the Kings have had a rash of injuries lately. You know that. Everyone else knows that. think we could maybe argue that the Kings were possibly a forward short before the injuries. Is there a player now that you would want to see the Kings go after?
I do, but it depends on price. And I agree with you, Ron. They were a forward short, absolutely a forward short. It depends if you want to do a rental or a term. The problem is, the Ducks aren't going to help you, and Ricardo Raquel would help this team. So that's not going to happen. So it would have to be a guy with well, if you want short term, a guy that I think would fit well, and I've mentioned this before, would be Artturi Lehkonen from the Canadiens. Right? He's restricted at the end of the season, arbitration rights, $2.3 million, not expensive, good two-way guy who fits this system. Right? So to me, you could go get Phil Kessel, but can Phil play in the system? I don't think so, especially if Martin Frk's in the game, right? So to me, I think it's got to be that two-way type of play. Look, the player I wanted here, who wound up going to Vancouver, but now he's on a longer-term deal, was Conor Garland. I think Conor would be fantastic in this. But at the deadline, again, guys, it depends on what week to week is. If you see Arvidsson skating tomorrow, right, and we're 5 days away, then I'm willing to look. I've been the guy who said, let's be aggressive, add to this team, swing big. I don't know right now because there's 4 forwards out there. It's never – look, I've covered the team for 20 years, right? There's never been the amount of injuries in this short a period of time since I've covered the team, without question. So to me, if Rob's going to be a little bit more cautious because he doesn't really know the timing of it, and that's the worst thing is that the trade deadline's 6 days away. So to me, I wouldn't swing big for any one of these forwards. But if you wanted to have a middle six guy that could supplement this team, fine. There isn't going to be the big time player that you're going to go get. Like Phil Forsberg's not getting traded out of Nashville.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't sign. So to me,
as much as we want him to,
you got to really fine tune it. Oh yeah. Well, maybe in the offseason if he doesn't pay up. But to me, I think it's the dilemma here because you want to reward this team. If they're going to be this shorthanded for another couple of weeks with this schedule, you don't want everybody coming up from Ontario, Ron, because look, here's the thing. A lot of the kids that came up haven't produced. Anderson, Dolan, Fagemo, and Turcotte haven't put up a point. Right? Doesn't mean they're not good. It doesn't mean they're future. But right now, in the moment, you want this team to make the playoffs now. And you would hate to have injuries just derail them. So to me, I could see 1 or 2 players like that I mentioned maybe come in. But I wouldn't be that disappointed if they don't make acquisition by Monday, because that tells me that these players are probably coming back sooner than later.
Yeah. For sure. And I think for me, the Kings have not been in even remote playoff discussion for several years. So I think you said it best. I would hate injuries to be the reason that they don't make the playoffs. They're granted they're in a very good spot now. But I also don't want them to make a move just for the sake of making a move. So I think I'd be more in favor of acquiring somebody with term. Philip Forsberg or Andrew Kopp are both UFAs at the end of the year. They could come in and help you out right now, but what are you going to give up to get them, right?
Yeah, I'd see. I would not give up that first round pick because you're going to need to use that to wheel it for a big deal, right? Even though people are asking for 2023, I'll give you another player who would be fantastic on this team. But there's an X factor. Like Tyler Bertuzzi has had a great season in Detroit, and he would fit this style. He goes to the net. He's got 24 goals, I think. But here's the thing, guys. He's not vaccinated. And where does the team go right after the trade deadline? Canada for 3 games. So do you trade for that player knowing that – and that could be an off-season deal because I love that player. I think he'd fit here well, and there was some talk about some interest there. Or you go to Philadelphia, maybe it's a Konechny or it's a Travis Sanheim or something like that. But I think we're trending more towards like off-season deals than some big deal here in the next 6 days for LA.
Yeah, as we're talking, the Kings brought back up all the players that they sent down yesterday. So Frk, Wolainen, and
paper transaction.
Strander back. So it was pretty much paper transaction.
What we thought it was.
The one thing that's kind of noticeable though is no Doughty activated. So maybe not expecting him tonight, but we'll see closer to game time. But yeah, Dennis, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head here. I mean, and Ryan too. The Kings are probably looking for a forward to try to add coming to the deadline. I think they were one maybe forward just a way just to kind of help things out, not to necessarily put them over the edge, but to just kind of solidify things in the bottom 6. And I look at more of a player like a Kai Yonkrook up in Seattle because I think the team is really desperate for a special teams type player, and he's a player that could really help on the penalty kill. Because if we've watched the Kings, it's the penalty kill that's really hurting the team right now, and special teams has been a problem throughout the year. So I don't really envision the Kings going out and grabbing necessarily a big name top 6 player. I think Rob Blake's kind of made that known that they're not really just going to they're going to be open to making deals and willing and dealing, but they're not going to make a big splash. So maybe a player like that can kind of help them out on the penalty kill and see what they can make some noise in the playoffs. And then just going forward, maybe in the summertime, you see that big name, maybe like a Chikrin being moved, or that big name defenseman that the Kings have been looking for coming over in the summertime.
Yeah, well, but they have to improve the offense at some point, Russ. It's just the team's not good enough offensively. And I know people talk about, they're not creative enough on the power play. It's not that they're not creative enough. They don't have creative players.
Yeah.
You look at San Jose, and San Jose's, 15 points worse than LA? Look at their first – go on Daily Faceoff and look at their first unit power play. Hurdle, Couture, Meyer, Burns, and Carlson. And that doesn't compare here. So and not for nothing, like your second line players who have been marvelous this year, Deneau and Moore. Deneau has 2 points. Deneau has 1 power play point, and Moore has 2. Like they're not that they're north-south players. They don't have enough creative players on this team. So I agree with you, Russ. In the short term, maybe you want to try to fix the penalty kill with an ad. But going forward, this team needs more offense. They need more creative players, and we'll see what happens in the offseason.
Do you see the Kings being players for Philip Forsberg in the summertime if he hits UFA?
You have to call the agent. You have to see if he wants to come here. I mean, it's a crime if he leads there. I mean, he's a lifelong Predator. I mean, they traded him for Martin Erat. So to me, I would be. And look, I assume Gaudreau would go east if he's not signing to Philly or Jersey. But you got to make calls on everybody here. Like this is a team that, guys, they're at like the second tier, right? Let's be real here. If they get into the postseason, I still assume they will. They can win a round. They're not beating Colorado, and they're not going to the Cup final and beat those 3 elite teams. So how do you add to this team? I think there's enough here defensively, and you look at all the talent that's coming in the pipeline, especially on the right side. But I think in the offseason, you have to adjust the scoring. It's just not good enough. Plus, not for nothing, like Phil Deneau is going to score 25 goals. He's going to score 25 next season. The X factor is number 55. And guys, I don't care about his productivity. He has to get the game time in. He has to put the work in. He has to play at this level. So the fact that he's got 2 goals on the assist, I don't care. He's got to play games. Next season, he's got to produce. So to me, I think in the offseason, you got to be searching for more offense, because I don't think you can expect Trevor and Phil to produce again at this level. They do, it's a home run, and you have to worry about it. But to me, I think the search for offense, even on the blue line, is going to be what the offseason holds.
Dennis, there was a question I asked you the last time you were on our podcast. I'm going to bring it up again.
Sure.
The last time I asked you, do you think Blake Lizotte is a placeholder on this team? How do you feel about him now?
I don't, unless Rasmus Kupari in the last 25 games really stands up here, and I don't even know they'll get a shot. But Blake Lizotte's done nothing wrong, and the chemistry he forged with 46 and 34, you can't take him out of the lineup. Now, here's the issue. 34 is no longer a fourth-line player. He's now a top 6 player. He's probably going to stay there for the rest of the season. So unless somebody comes in and takes Lizotte, and Lizotte does nothing wrong. That's the whole thing. Yeah, it's not a glamorous name. It's a great story. But I don't see who you're going to put in there, short of Kupari, who would come in and take his job. And I don't think the trust is there from Todd. And it's a lot of this guy's is trust. You listen to Todd. Russ is in with us, media available. This is a lot about trust. He trusts these players. And it turned into a 100-point team. So to me, am I going to make that change? So to answer your question, Ryan, this season, no, he's in the lineup. Now, is he going to battle for a job next season? Yeah, he's not locked in. But for right now, I don't see the player, because, look, it's going to be Kopi, Phil, Quinn. And the fourth, whoever is the best is going to play. It's a meritocracy. Todd's not married to Blake here, but Blake in the moment has done everything they've asked him to do. And, so for fans that don't want him in the lineup, I think he doesn't deserve it. This season he does, but we'll see what happens next season, what kind of changes they make.
Yeah, I think this is actually a really good segue, because Zach Dooley just tweeted, and I'm sure you see Alex Edler's on the ice for the Kings, joining the Kings for practice right now. So that's a big upgrade, and hopefully he can be healthy and help the team later in the season or toward the end of the season. But going into
now they don't
defense-
have to trade for chicken, Russ.
yeah,
Hold
exactly.
on.
So yeah, just to kind of segue into defense, do you see the Kings being players for a defensive ad at the deadline, or maybe even do you think it happens maybe in the summertime?
Well, again, it depends on the nature of these injuries. Like Drew is day to day, but he's still on the ice. So to me, it would be like I don't think Ben Sherratt, because I would not trade a first round pick for Ben Sherratt.
No.
The guy I love, who I would think would be really good as a rental, would be Cal DeHaan out of Chicago because he plays both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And with this team's injuries, it seems like, okay, the right side got all banged up, and now the left side got all banged up. So to me, his flexibility would be great down the stretch. That would be an ad I would look at. So that would be the type of player that I would want to add. I like him the best. I wouldn't swing for Sherratt because I'm not giving up a first-round pick for the guy because they're not that close. Like, if you need some insurance, I mean, this is about getting insurance to make the postseason, to not ruin this season. Because it would be a crime with all these injuries that they missed. I don't think they will because Vegas and Edmonton would both pass them, and I don't trust any of those teams. So, and there's only, I keep asking Todd about the playoffs, and he says, there's still a quarter of the season left. It's not that many games left, and there's a lot of home games. So to me, as an insurance policy, DeHaan I like because he plays both sides. And given the injury status from day to day with this team over the last week, you don't know where you'd slot him in on the left side or right side. But that Edler ad would be huge for this team. It would be massive for this team. He was so good. So we'll see what happens down the stretch. But yeah, I think to back your bets on this team, you want to reward this team. They have shown they deserve to have a little help. And because of not a performance, because of injury, you might want to add on the blue line as well.
And then looking ahead, I guess, into the offseason, the Kings are pretty crowded along the right side. Do you kind of envision or have any early predictions for who might be the odd men or odd man out?
It depends on the type of team you want, Ryan, because I can tell you that depending on what Brock Faber does and how Brent Clark is, you actually might trade, and this is a little crazy to say, Matt Roy.
Yeah.
That might get you a return, which he's been solid. Look, they're sunk without him. But it depends on the type of player you want, because the really good teams, they activate from the blue, and they've tried it with these players, but they're not those type of players. So if you want to be a really more offensively gifted team next season, and Clark's a keeper, and Spence might be here. So to me, if you want to change the style, maybe that's the player to go. I think you're going to look at what does the trading partner that you want. Do you want an established player in Matt Roy? Do you want a more a prospect, which it's probably not going to be Brent Clark. They're going to hold on to him. So to me, it's a question of the type of player that will come back in the trade and the type of player that needs to go to that acquiring team. Like Arizona, I don't think Arizona would want Matt Roy because they're not at that point. I think they would want a more offensively gifted player. So to me, he's earned it. He's been great. Look, we voted him last year the best defenseman on the team, the media. So to me, that would be a guy who, surprisingly as it might sound right now, that could be a trade target for some teams.
Do you think this is the most important offseason of Rob Blake's general manager time with the Kings?
Yes and no. Yes, because now they can take the next step, but no, because look at the moves he made, Russ.
Yeah.
Like, they paid off big time. Like Arvidsson for a second and third in the signing of Phil, people ripped it, especially Montreal. He can only score 5 goals, so he's not a 5-goal scorer, is he? So to me, I think last season was because they didn't turn the corner.
Yeah.
Then you can repudiate what they did with the buildings. 3 years they've done nothing. Now they turn the corner, but now it's a different type of importance, right? It's like, okay, now can you, look, if Gaudreau leaves and Kachuk gets traded because he doesn't want to stay there long term, could you win this division next year? Yeah, I mean, Vegas is going to be healthier, right?
Yeah.
But look at everybody else. So now can you take the next step? So it's if you have designs on winning in the next 2 to 3 years, Russ, it's a very important offseason.
Mm-hmm.
But for the validation of what they've done here, they don't need to be validated anymore. This season validated what they did 3 seasons ago.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, Dennis, I promised you 20 minutes. We're running right into that now.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the time today. It was great to chat with you again. And hopefully the rest of the season goes pretty well for the Kings, and go enjoy morning skate.
We'll do, Ron and Russ. We'll see you game 83.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Game 1, man. Take care. Cheers.
See you, Dennis.
See you, Dennis.
And that was Dennis Bernstein, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation with him. I'm filling in for Scott today. So
you're doing a great job too, Ryan. You're doing
Thank you.
You're doing an awesome job.
So I'm going to wrap, not in the way that Scott does, but but yeah, like I said, I'm filling in for Scott today. He'll be back for the next one. But yeah, Russ, thanks for joining me. It was good chatting with you again. Talk to you later.
Man. Yeah, let's go. Go Kings.
Go Kings.